Madam, we
Ma'am.
will we will wait, madam. I will call our regional director and will ask. Okay, madam. We will
We'll
wait.
wait, no, ma'am?
Yes, madam. We'll have to wait for half an hour. We will see, madam. Yeah.
Namaste, Radha ma'am.
Madam, good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Dr. Hema Malini told me that we should wait a little while.
Yes, madam. Because last week we have sent, madam, we have sent one email to headquarters and still waiting for a reply from them. Then I have also called, madam. I have also sent email. Yesterday I have called to the director also.
I received your mail, ma'am.
But they mentioned that it is a ministry program. You are not supposed to cancel it. Please conduct and share the video links to students, they suggested. So immediately I sent two emails to all the counselors also. They're all what happened, ma'am. These are sponsored students. They're the major problem, madam. And our students mean very different. And IGNOU has to submit report to ministry. Indian ministry has to submit report to African ministry. So these are all the so many protocol
So shall
issues.
we wait, ma'am?
We will wait, madam.
Okay.
After we will wait, we will see. Because this I did not understand also. On-ramp part also, I think, Hema madam, we will see, we will arrange for our on-ramp whenever the council is there for half an hour. That also we will see, madam. Because they have joined, that to be justified. Again, tomorrow we will send one link, madam, one reminder also to the students, and for headquarters, we will
But
send.
today is the last class, ma'am.
Oh. So tomorrow again I will send a reminder to them to kindly suggest. Even other artists also facing this problem, madam. But this is for DCE program only, madam. But master degree students are coming.
Yes, ma'am, they are coming.
They are coming, madam. More than
Yes, ma'am.
30 party we are getting. So our regular programs we are switching off, madam. We are cancelling also the students are not there. And this is a Vidyabharti project ಆಗಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ we
No,
have.
we will do one thing, ma'am. We will wait till 3:30, 3:40. Then
Okay.
we will begin. Whether they are there or not, we'll begin, ma'am.
Because they also suggested to share the links, You record and share that video links to students, they said.
We will
Yes,
start by
madam.
3:40, ma'am.
Okay, fine, madam. Fine. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, Alio. Madam, Rekha madam. Yes, madam was here. Alio, wait for a minute.
Okay, no problem.
She will start now.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Today we have come to the end of our session, DCE 2. So we will take up the fourth block concerning interviews. This is a very short, small block compared to the others. If you remember the other blocks, we traced it very chronologically. Feature writing, book review writing, travel writing, and then interview. And then we had also mentioned when we were doing those blocks, how interview is used as a tool to gather information and how we can now in this unit we will see how to make use of that tool. That is what we will see in this particular block. So we shall begin with this now. If you can see, interviews in feature writing. So what is actually an interview? Now, when we were doing feature writing, we had spoken to you at length about interviewing, how you can interview rural women, how you can interview urban women, and how you use the interviewed material collected and how you integrate and all that, isn't it? One moment, I have to start recording. I had... Okay. So we had, gone in detail about that. We knew, we saw how important the interview method was, isn't it? So all those things were there. One moment, Hema Malini ma'am, you are recording the session, isn't it, ma'am? Because it says the class is being recorded. Ma'am? Hema ma'am? Just a minute, Aliyu. 1 minute. I just need to confirm this.
Okay.
Madam, ಏನು madam?
ಅದೇ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಇದು ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಲ್ಲ?
Yes, recording is on, madam. You can start.
Okay. So we saw in that block about feature writing how important interviews were, right? So now in continuation of that one point, we start here with interviews. So what is an interview here? An interview can be defined as an interaction between two people where questions are asked to elicit information. Do you understand? Now, there are different kinds of interviews. You may have seen that also, isn't it? A job interview and things like that. For an appraisal interview. There are different kinds of interviews also. But here, it is with specific reference, and the purpose is well defined here. It is to get information. You conduct an interview, you interview a person, and you elicit information, you gather information from that. So it is nothing but an interaction between two people. When two people talk to each other, about a particular subject, then information about that is generated. That is what it is. And the key here is quite simply, it is information transmission. It can be for a social purpose, it can be a formal situation, or it could be in business. Whatever it is, this is what it is. Interviews are not simple. It may sound very simple now, isn't it? When I speak to you like this, when I tell you the different things, you may feel, oh, it is so simple. But they are anything but simple. They are not simple because they involve asking questions which reflect the information sought as clearly yet conversationally as possible. So you must have, the method is, the mode is, it should have a rapport. Your interview process must be very smooth. It must be very, very clear. It must be free flowing. And you must keep it conversational. You must not make it sound very serious and one question and answer, question, answer. It should not be like that. It should have a rapport. You must have a rapport with the interviewee, and then you have to speak. That is how it is. Okay. And it requires listening and analyzing skills. You must be a good listener. That is important here. How you listen, you must be attentive. When the interviewee is speaking, you must intently listen and you must analyze the answers that are being given so that immediately, you can pose a further set of questions on that. So the analytical skill that you have is also very important here. And interviewers must be nimble, ready to react in the event an answer results in a change to the direction of the conversation, or more significantly, the article being pursued. If the interviewers read body language and between the lines of what is said and not being said. So you must be alert. You must be smart, because so many times body vibes are the ones which tell you the direction in which the interview is going. If the interviewee is not comfortable, you should be able to sense it immediately. You must change the rapport. You must change the direction. So you must be very alert. You must be very quick. You must know the art of talking, and you must have the knack of diverting, from one topic to the another. If it is a volatile subject and if it looks like it's going to erupt anytime, you must maneuver your conversation skillfully in such a way that it is averted. So all these things you must keep in mind when you conduct the interview. Then normally, where do you put these interviews? It can be put in news reports, documentary stories, where these readers are interested, and personality profiles can also be based on interviews. You can build the personality, profile of a personality, a celebrity or whoever, whatever, through an interview. That is also possible. Okay. Then a local community issue or a larger socio-political problem can be showcased. Now, supposing something is happening, it's a burning issue, let us say. Many people are reacting to it. So you can interview people concerned with it and take more information about it. So it can also be a social problem, or it can be a socio-political problem, and your interview can show all that. It can showcase that as well. Then, now the scope of the interview articles. See, you can do interviews to get information, or it could be educative in its nature. It could motivate people, or it could even persuade readers, and then, of course, the last thing is it can be used for entertainment. That is also a possibility. So that can be done. And then, what are the different kinds of interviews that you can have here in this context? Personality based interviews. You can go and interview celebrities, popular people, people who have been achievers. So these are all interviews based on people, are called personality based interviews. And then subject based interviews. Now you want somebody to talk about some subject. So you meet people concerned with that subject, and your intention there is to get more information on the subject. Your focus is not so much on the person here, but it is on the subject. So these are the two kind of interviews that we generally know. We are familiar with these two. Then the art of interviewing. Preparation. Now, the art means how do you conduct the interview? So, how do we conduct the interview? That is, you need to have certain preparation for the interview. You have to choose the right people. Who are the ones concerned here with the subject on hand? Who are the right people? You have to choose that. That is very, very important. So choosing the right people also is an important step. That is the first one. Then you have to do a bit of research about them. Whatever it is, whether it is about people or a particular subject, you have to read up on it. Your research must be 100%. Don't go without any kind of a research on them. Do not ask inane questions. They will be put off. The interviewee will expect a certain degree of professionalism from you. And what is being professional here? It is very, very simple. It means that you should be well prepared. First, go read up on them. Now the internet has many options. You can read books on it. You can read articles on it. Anything is possible. There is no dearth for information about anything. So for your interview, you need to focus on these things. It is very, very important. That is the first one. That's the next one. And then you must frame your questions beforehand. Don't assume, don't go with that assumption that you will sit there and ask whatever questions occur to you. No, that is a very wrong procedure. You should never do this. Beforehand, as you are researching about that person or the subject, you must also note down questions which are relevant to the topic. Frame it, keep it. You can add to it, or you can delete a few questions if you think it is not relevant. But the first step should be to write it down. Write all the questions. Keep it ready. Frame it properly. I have another, next slides. I will tell you about how to frame your questions. But you must keep your questions ready well in advance. Don't ever make the mistake of going there to the interview and then thinking about what you can ask, what you can do and all that. No, you should not do that. And then etiquette. There is a certain type of mannerism here. You need to be well dressed. You need to look professional. You must have a very pleasing set of manners, whether it is an informal interview or a formal one. However it may be, the etiquette must be in place. You must know how to speak. You must know how to introduce yourself. And you must also, know how to address the person in the interview. So you must have all these things in mind. And mannerisms, body language, all these play a very, very important role in the interview. It is very important. You must never take it for granted. I know this person, is pretty cool about everything, so it doesn't matter how I go. No, that should never be your attitude. Whether you know the person beforehand or you don't, the way in which you present yourself matters a great deal. So you must go, properly dressed, and your mannerisms must be absolutely in place. And then establish a rapport with the interviewee. You must establish a rapport. You must speak to that person, make him feel comfortable. That is very important. The person on hand should feel comfortable to open up. Otherwise, they won't open up. They won't speak to you properly. The information that you are after may not come at all. So it is very important to make the interviewee feel very comfortable. You must ensure that the interview has a rapport with you. So speak generally, informally, before the interview starts. Speak about little things which are perhaps common to both of you, and make sure that the interviewee is relaxed. That should be the order. See that the interviewee is very relaxed, very, very calm, composed, and then you can start. And then note taking. You can take notes as the interview is progressing. That is one method. Another is recording. You can record the interview, either a tape recorder or a video camera. It is left to your convenience. But recording, if it is there, it is convenient, right? And then restructuring the interview. After everything is over, you put together your material and you restructure it. Okay, so reconstructing the interview means you put it in a manner where it is easy to understand. So as you are taking down, you may have jotted down in a hurry, you may have put side notes here and there, right? All those things happen when you're talking to people and you don't want to miss any word. You will go on writing it in a haphazard manner. You give arrow marks here, there, and all that, and that is how you get information, isn't it? But then after everything is over, you sit at your table and then you reconstruct the whole thing. Okay, so make it come in a logical fashion. I will tell you about it in a while in the next slide. Is so much understood, Aliu?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I have understood. Yeah. So far, so good.
Very good, very good. So next one, how to prepare the questions. How do we prepare it? Better always to avoid yes/no questions. Do you like the subject? If there is a question like that, the interviewee will definitely say yes or no, like that. So you should not ask such questions. Don't ask yes/no questions, because they don't elicit the right explanation. It will be very short, it will be very brief. You will not get the information that you are after. So don't have these yes/no questions. It is not correct. Don't have them at all. See if the answers can be explanatory. Frame your questions in such a way that the interview gives an explanation to it. He should be able to speak at length about the question that you have raised. So it should not be a very brief yes or no kind of a question. So don't do that. As far as possible, try and avoid that kind of a questioning. Then, frame questions with a focus on the subject. Always keep that focus intact. What is the subject? And frame according to that. The focus should never be deviated. See, the harm is this. when you begin to speak, it gives rise to so many different areas. So what happens? You may diverge, isn't it? You may deviate. The interviewee may deviate from the question on hand and start answering and talking about various other related things, perhaps. Now, this deviation will cause a lot of problem, isn't it? So you must ensure that you bring back the interviewee to the subject on hand. For this, you need a lot of smartness. It's not easy. It doesn't happen just like that. You should have the knack to bring it back to the subject in focus. So that focus is never lost. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to reproduce the interview. What the question that you have raised will be entirely different from the answer that you are getting. So it is easy to lose direction here. So you must make sure that the focus is on the subject at all times during the interview. And WH questions often direct the pace of the interview. Now you I'm sure know what WH questions are. Why, what, when, where, whose, which, whom, how. All these are WH questions. Ask WH questions. And these WH questions are the ones, which set the pace of the interview. You can ask, why is this so? What is that? When did this happen? How did this happen? Where did this happen? Right? So these WH questions will give you a lot of information. And these are certain basic questions. They go under the title basic questions. They're so basic, but yet so useful. These basic questions will set the pace. The minute you start asking where, why, when, how, and all that, then the pace of the interview is intact. It will go in a certain manner. There won't be any lags. Make sure that there isn't a lag in the interview. Otherwise, it will be very boring. It will lose interest. The interviewee will also lose interest in answering. You will also lose interest in asking questions. So you must make sure that the pace is lively, energetic. So these WH questions set that kind of a pace. Okay. There is a technique in asking these questions. Anytime questions, if you have to ask questions, you need a certain technique to it. Teachers, invariably have this technique of asking questions. They know how to ask. They know how to get the answers they want also. That is also there. So what is this technique? What should you adopt now to get this going? How do you practice? First and foremost, be very flexible. Don't be rigid. What do I mean by that? See, you have already a set of prepared questions. You have gone to the interview with this, list, right? Now, there, suppose, something happens and the third question perhaps can come first. Let us assume. But you should be flexible and then change it. Okay. This is how it is. You wanted to ask why, but it started with where. Let us assume. You should be flexible enough to change it. There is no hard and fast rule to say that it must be like this only. You can be flexible, change it. No problem. As long as the information that you are after is coming, why bother? Isn't it? So you can be flexible, you can adopt, you can switch from one to the other. That is possible. And then wherever, as per the situation or the context, make sure that your questions are reframed. Sometimes it may be different from the question that you have prepared. The question that you have written and taken may be slightly different. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. On the spot, given the context, however the situation is, reframe that question. There is nothing wrong. You can reframe it, but you must go with a set of prepared questions. Don't go without that. Basing on the prepared questions, your interview will have started. In between, according to the dictates of the situation, you may ask different kind of questions. You may have gone with a certain kind of questions, like why did this happen, with WH questions, let us say. But there, when that person is speaking, you can always say, can you please elaborate on this? Right? So modals can be used. Let us say, can you do this for me, please? Will you show me how this is done? So you can reframe the questions. There is nothing wrong in that. So the way it goes, you should be alert to the nuances in the conversation. Only when you're alert to those nuances will it be possible for you to reframe the questions as and when required. And then always see to it that a conversational tone is adopted. If it is conversational, then it becomes easy. The interview will also go smoothly and you will have more interest, isn't it? You must have these fillers in. What do you say? Is that so? Please, can you tell me how this went? So your tone must be very conversational. Yeah, you should not. The other contrast is, can you please tell me how this was done? Can you please tell me where this was done? If you ask in this manner, it won't have that kind of an interest, isn't it? The interviewee will also feel a little deflated. So adopt a very, very fluid, smooth flowing conversational rapport in the interview. That is important. Next, ask supplementary questions. You may have gone with a prepared set, no doubt about it, but ask for other questions also. Now, on that particular subject, with the question that you have asked, the interviewee will have said something, let us say, but more information can be sought on the same subject or on the same topic. So then you can ask more questions on that particular topic. Those are supplementary questions. Connected to the same issue, you're asking more and more questions. Those are called supplementary questions. Then, if there are digressions, keep the focus intact. This is very important, because when you are talking, it is easy to go out of hand with the subject. Related matters can come in, examples may be cited, and those are all good things, no doubt about it. But sometimes, based on what is being cited or what is being given as an example, there can appear a digression. You can go off in that direction. The interviewee may start talking at a tangent, right? But you, as the interviewer, you must have the upper hand. You must, no doubt, listen to it very courteously, very politely, bring it back to focus. Bring it back to the question that you have on hand. That becomes very, very important. And then be an attentive listener. It is not done to simply ask a question and then, go see here and there and then mentally take a journey. You may be looking at the person, but mentally you are off. That can also happen. Make sure that you are a very, very attentive listener. That becomes very, very important. And then introduce a few icebreakers if needed. Supposing the person is not able to open up, let us say, then you must, introduce a few icebreakers. Like you can get them to talk about themselves a little, or these, surrounding whatever is there, you can ask them to talk about it, so that, they attain that degree of comfort. Make sure that they enter a comfort zone, and the interview can begin after that. So you must have these knack, this technique, to get this going. That is very, very important, right? And then research about the person and subject. I already mentioned that. Never attempt to go without researching on them. Never. It is very, very wrong. What are the different interview equipments that you can have? You can take a tape recorder, right? And you can also take a video camera. Now, tape recorder is okay, but both these you must take prior permission from the interviewee. Ask that person if it is okay by him or her to record the entire process. It is always better because you will be
Ma'am,
free.
excuse me. Yeah, ma'am. If some interviewees are not flexible, are not feeling okay, don't feel flexible if you interview. If you, yeah, in front of camera, some people are afraid of speaking. So what can we do to convince them to speak?
See,
To speak
you
in
can
before
always
camera.
convince them and say that this recording will not be used anywhere. It is for your personal use. You want all the information that the person is saying to be produced perfectly. So you can ensure, you can assure the interviewee that it will be used for your own personal use. Otherwise, it is always there, you can always take notes. Taking
Ma'am,
notes is
yeah, sometimes let us suppose that if I want to talk about the importance of local languages, yeah, I need some people the linguists that know many things about language. So I need them to speak up for the people to tell them the importance of local languages. So if they don't so up, how am I going to pass the information to the populations?
1 minute. One minute, huh? One minute, huh, please.
Okay.
Just a minute, Aliu.
Okay.
I just want to go back to my
ಮೇಡಮ್
Okay.
ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಶನ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಆಗಿದೆ.
Take your time.
ha
Yeah.
ma'am, ಅದೇ ಹೆಂಗೆ
ಓಕೆ,
ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು?
ಯುವರ್ ಪಿಪಿಟಿ is open ಮೇಡಮ್.
No
Open
ma'am,
ಇದೆ.
my
No.
I'm trying to go back to my mail.
ಓಕೆ, ಮೇಲ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾ?
ಹಾ,
No, PPT ಬೇಡನಾ? You don't want the PPT now?
I want the PPT ma'am, but I'm trying to go back to that so that I can download it
No,
again.
PPT is not there on the desktop.
No ma'am, I pressed something and it
Okay.
got deleted.
It is there in the mail.
It is there in the mail, but I don't know how to go to it.
Once you can log out and check, madam. You keep it on the desktop, then I will tell how to do.
Yes ma'am.
Keep the PPT on the desktop. Open the mail, madam. Download it first.
I will log out and come back
Yes,
again.
madam.
Is
Yes,
it, ma'am?
madam. Do it. Leo, you take a break for 5 minutes. Madam will come back. Be
Ha.
here.
Okay. Yeah. Mhm.
Can you see now, Aliu?
Yes, I can see.
I'm so sorry, Pa.
No. It's normal, ma. It's normal. Yes.
Okay, we were at. Interview equipments, right? So this is where we were. So here you were asking me a question. Now, if the person is not comfortable with you using a camera, you can do either of the two things. One is you convince the person that it is for your personal use, and the other is you can always take notes. That is also possible, right? So and what are the advantages of using a video camera? One is the progress will be very smooth. You will be relaxed. You will not have that tension of where you will omit taking down certain things or whatever. So you will be rest assured. So there won't be any kind of a problem with that kind of a thing. And then the data will be preserved intact. So you can always retrieve everything verbatim. So that is again another advantage of having a recorder. Either ways, a tape recorder or a video camera. Either ways, you will have this data intact, so that your information can be corroborated at any given point of time with what you have written later. So that is another. And then disadvantages. One is it may prove a little expensive, and you should have the skill in handling that equipment. That is also there. You should have that in mind. And then when you make a mistake, that mistake will prove very, very costly. It's a costly mistake. So it is better that you have all these issues addressed and then start having a digital version of the whole process. So this is another. Then editing and organization. Now the interview is over. Okay, that is done. You have collected all the information. The data is with you. Now how to give shape to that interview material? What will you do? How will you do that? So one is you should organize your notes methodically. So, as per the questions asked, you may have asked supplementary questions, you may have asked a few extra questions, whatever it may be, you must, while taking down notes also, you should be a little methodical in taking down the notes, and then immediately thereafter compile it into a recognizable bit of information for you to transcribe it later into writing. So you should ensure that it is done immediately when the interview is still fresh in your mind. When it is still fresh in your mind, you must put everything down properly. So it should be done methodically. What answer was given to which question? What anecdote was mentioned in connection with which point? All these things, you must keep it very, very methodically. It must be done. It must be put down methodically. You must organize your material like that. And then make sure that it is coherent. Because when we write down the notes, we are kind of incoherent. We may understand what it is, but later, after a time gap, a time lapse, it will be very difficult for you to make out, because in the moment you may have scribbled things here and there, but after a while, to go back to the same notes, you may not be in a position to understand that. So that is why I'm telling you again and again, transcribe it when it is still fresh in your mind. Then you will have your memory to guide you. So you will know what was said at what point and for which point, all those things you will know. So when you organize it, make sure that it flows coherently. That is very, very important. And then see if all the questions are adequately covered. see, sometimes some questions may be glossed over. Sometimes some questions may not be addressed at all. So you must ensure there and then whether everything has been addressed properly. All the questions are adequately covered. So you must make sure that the interviewee has given you the appropriate correct answers, and you must also make sure that your questions have adequately covered the topic from all angles. So your questions should also be able to address the topic 360 degrees. So that also you must keep in mind, and then decide on the style in which you want to publish the interview. What kind of a writing style do you want it to be? You want it to be an official kind, you want it to be very formal, or you want it to be, like a narrative. You have to decide on your style. This basically is, done on the basis of the subject. Now, if it's a technical subject, then it calls for a certain formality. If it is slightly informal or semi-formal, then the style can be narrative and it can be a little informal. So the subject largely depends the style in which you have to write your article. And then plan the layout properly, because I'm sure when you go an interview, you will take photographs, and you may have collected photographs from the person himself regarding certain milestones that he or she may have achieved, or any photographs that may become relevant to the subject on hand. So now you have to plan the layout properly, where to place what photograph, what should be captioned, and in the writing, where should the photograph be inserted, what are you going to write about the photograph, and then you have to ensure the flow of the writing also when you insert the photograph. So all those things need to be decided here very, very clearly. That is very, very important. So you must plan the layout correctly. That is important. And then here, when you do that, 3 important things to be noted. One is, what have you chosen to focus on? Your introduction, your overall structure, all those things become very important here. And then, how do you choose to start? Will you start with a surprise, or will you start with an anecdote, or will you start with a quotation, or will a photograph first come and then explanation about it? So you have to decide on how you're going to begin the write-up. That is very important. And then how to structure your piece. Now here, whether it's an informal bit of writing or formal, all those things will come into picture here. Where to place what, where to add on, anecdotes, where to add on quotations, where you need to put, verbatim certain things. All those things you have to structure it out here at this point of time. And then the last word, the interview article. You have, after planning the layout, you must first draft it. Write it out first. This will not be the final one. This is just the beginning. You will write it out and see if it is cohesive and coherent. It should fit in properly. There should be a very compact, easy style to structure the whole layout. So that is important. And then make sure that there are linkers in place, because one thing should lead to another, the other one should lead to another. So there should be a flow on, isn't it? Ensure that it has that. And when you overall read it, it must sound logical. One point leads to another and so on. So there must be a flow, that is coherence. And then when you find that there are certain gaps in the writing, revise it again. Revise it is to revisit the article once more. And then make note of all that you feel is not properly put in. And then rewrite the whole thing. After you rewrite the whole thing, pay attention to the style in which you have written. That is important. See if the style, when you read it for yourself, it'll tell you whether it's been written properly or not. So make sure of that. That is very, very important. So with this, we come to the end of the interview unit, the block. So this is block 4. We come to the end of block 4. With this, DCE 2 is done.
Thank you, ma'am,
Right.
for the valuable lecture.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry about the little interruption we had in between. I just couldn't help it. There was a problem and the slides got deleted. So I had to go to my mail and then retrieve it again. I'm sorry for that lapse.
No, ma'am, you don't need to excuse yourself for that.
Thank you, Pa. Thank you very much.
Like as I told you,
All the very best.
I have already appreciated, your lecture, your class. So
thank you. Thank you
thanks
very
to
much.
you, I have come to know many things about how to conduct an interview. Many things. So all the thanks go to you. Thank you for the class. The class has been very helpful to me, and I thank you. I can just thank you for that.
Thank you, madam. Rekha, madam. Then
Thank you,
over, madam, will wind up.
Yes, ma'am. We'll wind up, ma'am. So with this, I complete all the sessions, ma'am.
Okay, madam.
4 sessions.
Okay.
Thank you,
you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you very much.